Hey everyone, welcome back to Lessons in the Lounge. My name is Vince, and I have the honor today of being in the Workaway Offices podcast and media studio. Today, I'd like to talk about something that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is seller's remorse. When it comes to selling your business, an area that is rarely discussed is seller's remorse. Seller's remorse is very common, and studies show that the majority of business owners experience it after they've sold their business. I can tell you from my own personal experience that I still have some remorse when I think about the businesses that I sold about 12 years ago and what I would have done differently if I was selling a business today. After spending several years or decades building your business from scratch, going through the incredible ups and downs, the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, it's not easy walking away from your baby, the company that you've helped to grow and mature. While the payday can be pretty darn good, it's the emotional side that is hard on sellers. The fact that in many ways, part of your identity is tied to your company. So what can you do if you're planning to sell a business or already have? Well, here's a few lessons that I wish somebody would have told me before I sold my businesses and what I had to learn the hard way. Let's start by talking about the things you should be thinking about before you sell your business. Before you decide to sell, be clear on why you want to sell before you sell. It might be the most obvious reason in the world, such as you just want to retire after years and years of hard work. Great. That makes life somewhat easier, but not completely. Most regret comes from vague thoughts and motivations that we have as business owners. At times, these vague thoughts can gnaw at us, and they could come from being overworked, underappreciated, or just the usual stress that comes with running a business. Thoughts like, I want liquidity. Really? That's it? Well, maybe you would be better off just raising your salary or taking some surplus cash out of the company rather than selling. Think about how vague your desire for liquidity is when you're watching a new owner reshape your culture. Another vague thought, a common thought is, I can't take the stress any longer. Well, you know what? Take a holiday, go to a retreat, and contemplate why you're so stressed out. Hire a competent person to manage the problems that you're having to deal with rather than selling. If you know specifically what you're striving for, what your motivation is, such as financial security, retirement, starting a new life chapter, make sure that the deal that you settle for will actually deliver that. Now, this might sound a bit silly, but think about how you would grieve the loss before it happens. In other words, how will you feel after the sale? As I mentioned earlier, your company is likely a core part of your identity, and business owners who treat the sale purely as a financial transaction are often blindsided and overcome by emotions later on. Take some time to have honest conversations with a therapist, a coach, or other business founders who have sold and can help you process the identity shift in advance. Make sure that you negotiate the transition terms carefully. Many sellers regret agreeing to long earnout periods or leadership roles under the new ownership where they have responsibility, but no real authority. Remind yourself that the company is no longer yours, and you'll have to accept and live with the decisions and directions of the new owners, which is not always easy to do. If you're staying on, make sure that you define your role, decision-making power, and exit strategy very, very carefully. Here's a mistake that I made: not having a specific what's next in your life plan. The most common trigger for regret isn't the sale itself, it's the void that comes after the sale. Before closing the deal, have at least a rough answer to what you'll do with your time, energy, and also what kind of sense of purpose will you need. During our selling process, we got so busy with the due diligence demands of the new owner that I didn't have any time to think about what's next for me. In my case, I didn't have to stay on to help with the transition, as we had a lot of really smart managers and staff that took care of all that. But I can still remember closing day. I was in my office when I was told that the money was transferred into my bank account. I realized that I was no longer needed. So I got up, I said goodbye to everyone, and left for good. It was December the 1st, and I remember going home to a very quiet house and asking myself, what the heck do I do now? That was a weird feeling. That leads me into the next few tips of what you should do and what you shouldn't do after the sale is done. I've been working since the age of 12 and I'm still working. I'm just wired that way and I love what I do. So when I went from running at a very active role of running a business to doing absolutely nothing, I got really, really bored. I was 53 years old and I knew that eventually I would be running or growing another business soon. So I began thinking about new projects to get into. And I came up with a lot of different project ideas. And I was really fortunate that I had several friends and business colleagues that I could speak with about my ideas. And these talks helped me to take my time before jumping into something else too quickly. So give yourself a real transition period. Don't immediately jump into the next thing out of anxiety or boredom. The disorientation is normal and temporary. But decisions made in that window, such as investing in bad deals, launching companies impulsively, can often compound the regret. As well, stay connected to your community. Founders often underestimate how much social structure came from their company. The team, the mission, the daily rhythm. Actively rebuilding that matters more than most people think. Stay connected, get out there, meet with old friends or colleagues, grab some coffee or lunch, and stay connected. On a slightly different note, it could be hard on the seller when they see or hear that the new owners are upsetting staff, upsetting clients, or both. If the new owners are doing a terrible job with your old company, that doesn't mean that selling was the wrong idea. Don't get upset or frustrated because in most cases, there's nothing or very little that can be done about it anyway. Judge the decision on what you knew at the time, not what happened after you lost control. So don't be too hard on yourself. I would also suggest find a peer group of other business sellers. This is probably the most underrated resource. Other people who have gone through it understand the specific mix of relief, grief, and restlessness in a way that even your close friends will not be able to understand. Share your stories and listen to theirs. It might be interesting and refreshing to hear that you're not alone. So the common thread running through all of this is that most seller regret is really identity regret, not financial regret. The founders who are able to navigate it, understand it upfront are the ones who treated the emotional side of the transaction with as much seriousness as the legal and financial side. I hope this has helped, and thank you for watching.